Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Can, and if I can, you can too. It is so good to be live with everyone today. We are going to be discussing one of my favorite products, one of my favorite programs to use, Adobe Express. Now, here's the thing. I am, in full disclosure, an Adobe Express ambassador, meaning that I work with Adobe Express to make Adobe Express better. So, what that means for you is that I have a relationship with them in full transparency. Any links for Adobe Express that you will be clicking in this stream will be an affiliate link. And this stream is actually sponsored by Adobe Express. So, I just wanted to give them a massive shout out. But I also want to show you how you can grow on YouTube using Adobe Express and using things such as their multi-page feature to schedule content on social media, ways you can think about promoting your content outside of just YouTube. Because if you're only relying on YouTube as one of your largest traffic sources, that's only part of the battle. Now, some of the features I'm going to be showing today do require the paid version of Adobe Express, but you can try a free trial in the description down below using my link. I'll also make sure to include it in the pinned comment. So without further ado, let's get started with what Adobe Express is, just in case you're brand new and you never knew. If you're watching the replay and are very familiar, you can click those chapters in the description down below. However, Adobe Express is a free browser-based designer, and also it has a mobile app. It is 100% free to use, but there is a premium version, which we will show some of its features off here today. So I'm just really excited to get into kind of what Adobe Express has to offer. I see Ike is in the house. I see that we have Homekeeping channel, so great to see everyone. But let us get started right away getting into the Adobe Express goodness. Now, when you first get started within Adobe Express, I will share my screen so you can see what I am referring to. When you first get into Adobe Express, at least on the browser, again, if you're watching this on the mobile app, it might be a little bit different, but at least on the browser, this is kind of one of those first looks that you are going to get when you are looking here. So it's very important that when it comes to it, you take an idea into consideration, how you can design. If you've never used Adobe Express, I'll have some tutorials linked in the description as well. But the main thing I want to focus on is the scheduler. So if you're unfamiliar, social media is more than just YouTube, jokes aside. But the thing is, when you click on the scheduler, this is a premium Adobe Express feature. But if you were smart and you got that link, you can see where I've already started promoting some of the content. In fact, if you came via Twitter, you can actually see where I tweeted this moments ago. The cool thing about this is if I want to duplicate this post, I can actually just copy this. If you see, I click duplicate on that last post, and I can change. So I can say, I am live now, all caps, I am live now. We will use this, if I don't accidentally click a function key, but it's, again, sharing out this to my Twitter. I want to make sure the time is now. So if you're watching this in the future, this has already passed, but I can make sure that actually I'll do it in 35. So we might get another increment. As you can see, it goes up there. But I can do a lot here with this. So in order to make a new post, you just would click add new in the top left-hand corner. You can have multiple connections, as you see here. Here are all my connections. They're always adding more. Hopefully someday they will add YouTube to this list. But just wanted to make sure that I showcased all that they have. Again, if you'd like to give this a try, there's that free trial link. So this is one of those things that's super important because you can link your different social medias. Before Twitter was what it is today, where it is a little unstable. It used to be one of my favorite social medias. Then there's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. Again, as Adobe Express is getting more and more developed, hopefully someday they will add YouTube, which I think could offer incredible opportunity, such as maybe if I can schedule like thumbnails between two different videos, I think that'd be awesome. So yeah, just how you connect is you will set up these connections. You can also go to setup and it'll bring you to the same page. This gives you a little bit more information when it comes to this. So I also will put myself in this corner so you can see it a little bit larger. But yeah, basically you can set up all these different connections. For setup, you can set the preference. So I am American based, so day, month, year is how I like it. You can change this to what you want. You can have 24 or 12-hour, and you can start your weekday. Maybe some people like to start on Sunday. I like to start with Monday. And if you are more Facebook active, there's Facebook link previewing editing, which you can partake in. So there's two ways you can add. You can go to a new date, as I did a little bit earlier. You can click the add new. And the cool thing from here is when you are ready, and you can either add media in a couple of ways. You can click the add media button. Ike did ask, is the scheduling free? Or I did mention it does require the paid version a little bit earlier in the stream. But if anyone is wondering, it does require the paid version, but there is a link in my description and in the pinned comment on the live stream for where you can get a free trial of 30 days. And yeah, you can give it a shot. Or if you already have the Adobe Creative Cloud, you already get access to the premium version of Adobe Express. So you can try it out through there. So there's two ways you can add media. Just click on the add media button. You can choose from your device. So like if you have files and you just already have Photoshop, or you already have, thumbnails that you want to go ahead and like insert here, you can do that. Or you can pull from Adobe Express. So let's say that I wanted to just, focus on this project or an older project, my free YouTube banner maker here. I could collect it. I wanted to say click or select, but it came out collected. So I can select it and it will add it auto-magically to the project. So because it is synced with Adobe Express, it knows to convert it to where it is more shareable. Again, it will be taking the dimensions I have of this project. This is a YouTube thumbnail. So that is one of those ways where you can easily just, bring over the projects you've already done. You can add more than one, and you can view them in different ways. You can view them in an icon-based view with this 4 squares, or a list-based view. So either way, whatever looks better for you, you can also clear the entire selection. I'm going to go ahead and add this to post. And the good thing about this is, since I have the ability to schedule this, if I wanted to, maybe in January 1st, right? I can go ahead and schedule this way in advance. Let's say January 1st. A lot of people are going to be looking and to start a YouTube channel. So I'm aware of this as a creative, right? So that is where I can know people's habits, right? And that's where me as a creator can be a little more objective. And later on, I'm going to show you, because again, this is all about growth on, YouTube using multi-page and the scheduler. And don't worry, we will go to multi-page in just a bit. But I wanted to first show off the scheduler so that when we get to the multi-page, you can really understand how to use them in tandem. So, now that we have talked a little bit about just how important it is to just really focus on what mostly knowing your audience is, we can go to YouTube. I know my YouTube channel. We can go over to it, go to the video that actually really can go well with this. So this is the free YouTube channel banner. I can right click because I'm on a computer, PC more specifically. Don't need streamception. And then from there, wrong scheduler. I can go ahead and write something. So maybe it's like new year, new you, something like that. Maybe more like, do you need to make a new YouTube channel banner for the new year? For the new year, check out this free tool and yeah, I can do hashtag Adobe Express just to help a little bit there. To help you, again, keeping the audience, create a YouTube channel banner. And again, this is just me typing freely. And I can include a quick link. And because I have the media, I can either replace the media with the link preview, although I will keep it. I think that works pretty well. I'll go ahead and do YouTube. I'll make sure to disclose I'm an Adobe Express, not all caps, Adobe Express ambassador, like I did a little bit earlier in the stream. And then, the cool thing is, because I already had this scheduled, please select one channel. Whoops, forgot to share it to Twitter. Go ahead and schedule that. And then when I go and jump to it, there it is, ready to go. And it's just another way you can schedule. I like it because of the integration that it does have within, just the different ways you can pull in, such as Adobe Express. So that's really useful. Also, wanted to shout outs to Angel Tania. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that right. And Sleepy Carl. Great to see you both. But yeah, that's just how simple and easy it is to bring stuff within the scheduler and how much you can do with it. There are some other views you can look at. So if you like to see, everything broken down in a different viewpoint, there is the week view. Tend to prefer the month view, and as you can see, I've been using it and playing around with it. I actually used it to publish some of the stuff. I'm gonna get more in depth, and that's something I wanted to talk about for December and January. So let's go ahead and make our way back to Adobe Express. And I wanted to show off just using this thumbnail that you may have clicked on. Again, I might be A/B testing this, so if you're choosing a different one in the future, this might not be the same one. But if you notice, we have something that is called multi-page. So this is my live stream, my the way I'm utilizing it here. You may notice at the bottom here there is next page, and if I click on it, it may not seem too different, but this is the one that is the most different. I actually posted this to my my Instagram stories and I was able to use it. I could also use this, similarly to YouTube stories. So the way you get to multi-page is you can start from your beginning project and click on, add page. And what this will do is you can choose the same size as this page. You can choose maybe Instagram story, different options, and it will create a new page. You can also, if you want to keep this design style, just click the duplicate page button here, right? And then all of a sudden I get a new page. If I click here, you will see that I have my original thumbnail. I have a Twitter version, which I believe is this. This is my new page, and I have an Instagram version. So what I can do here, I can exit the view of all and go to my second one, which you can, if you ever lose track, you can always look at the bottom here of which version you are on. And then let's say I want to go ahead and share this to a different social media platform. Let's say I want to make this an Instagram square, which is going to be different than a YouTube thumbnail. I will click resize in the top right hand corner here. Zoom in a little bit so you can get a look at it. Go ahead and zoom back out just a bit more. Maybe a little bit too much. Whoops, wrong one. Well, I also could have just done this to show it off. But, one of the things you can do is use all these different tools to your advantages. And one of the cool things I like about Adobe Express, especially as a creator, if you're not really super into, design or you're just getting started, to create a different version for all the social medias can be daunting. And I know when I started, I definitely struggled with this. But, with tools like Express, which can help alleviate some of this, we're just going to click on resize to the right hand side. And then, if I want to make this an Instagram landscape, an Instagram portrait, a square, as I mentioned, 1080 by 1080, I can do that. And it will let me design a lot easier within those parameters. I don't have to just copy and paste it over. And so all of a sudden, I'm designing a lot differently, right? And I'm clicking on these different layers. So, like grow on YouTube, right? I could probably make this a little bit bigger. Maybe not that way, maybe more like this. And so instead of having to copy everything over and doing it over and over again, it's just a lot easier, right? And then I know my design elements, so I can just quickly make them fit better to the ones I'm using. Oops, didn't mean to erase myself. Can click on that there. And all of a sudden, I have a little bit more of a dynamic image that I can create with. And again, the reason I have the phone is because I wanted to show off the scheduler and the multi-page functionality here, right? So let's say that I wanted to post this to Instagram. Well, there's a couple ways I can do that. So because this isn't a multi-page, I really can't do it within there. I can just download this, click this page. I could download all of the pages at once if I really wanted to. So that's just another option between the two. I see Homekeeping Channel says saves so much time. Absolutely. One of the things I like to say about Adobe Express is like it's the express lane to creativity. Because again, I could just create a new project. I could do all of this very manually, but that's not exactly fun for me as a creative. That's one of those parts where it's like, yeah, I could be doing that, but it's not what I enjoy doing. And so just being able to have the ability to do these things, right? I still want to design just a little bit more. it just makes it so much easier. So then I have multiple versions. So this is just a multi-page. And eagle-eyed viewers, there are some of you out there may notice the saving here. This is all cloud-based, right? So this is going to save my progress as I go, but obviously there's an undo button. If I don't want to make any change, I can undo it. Just be very careful that when you are, making sure you're editing and you're having a lot of fun, that keep in mind that if you close the project, it may cancel some of your edits. So just be a little might be a little too. Hello, Christina Smallhorn. Great to see you. Hello there, Andrew Can. Because if Andrew can, I can too. Absolutely. I do see that Christina said, when you turn your hand the other direction, this actually isn't my hand. Ooh, no, this is just something I pulled. I mean, I could turn it the other direction, perhaps. This is just something I wanted to play around with. So this is actually from the library that you gain access to with Adobe Express. So I just transparently looked up calendar. I'll actually show you how I made this in real time. I knew I wanted a version where it was someone holding the phone, and I saw that, and I was like, "Ooh, I like that one." Of course, when I found it originally, it was a lot easier than now, so maybe I type in I'm trying to remember how I maybe it was schedule. You find something one time and you try to find it again, and it seems like it'll never exist again. But I remember I just was looking for something. Maybe it was schedule. It was either schedule or calendar, and this image showed up. And then from there, I just kind of I used Adobe Express, powered by Photoshop. I almost said Photoshop. No, I actually did this in Adobe Express, and I removed the background just so that I could show off. Here it is. Now this was a premium image, but yeah, this is the exact image I used. I made it a little bit larger. There we go. It was a lot higher quality last time around. Just hit remove background in the edit image in the top right hand corner. And then, yeah, you can add back in. So even if you're not good at cutting things out, you can just kind of quickly do this. I just pretty much did that. And instead of me having to hold up a calendar, found an image that made sense, but just was there. Uh, I mean, I could, but because it's not my hand, I mean, if I do it the other way, the calendar becomes wrong. And to be fair, it's not so much about realism as it was to get people to be like, "What?" So you could, but wasn't really what I was going for. But the idea is instead of me having to, pull up my phone, take a photo of me holding my phone, it was just really quick and easy to do that. And so, again, with this and the multiple pages, this was the YouTube thumbnail we started with. With resizing, we were easily able to do this. This is actually the version for Twitter, but the problem with it is you can't really see it's that different. Maybe if I just move myself back a little bit. And then this was the Instagram story version. So with multi-page, again, if you were to create a brand new thumbnail, whether it is from a template or whether it is from your own design, you absolutely can have a lot of options with this and play around with it. And the cool thing with Adobe Express is because of their color features, right? Let's say for social, I want to play around with this a little bit more. So it's going to identify my current colors. And this goes for the thumbnail too, and I can play around with different versions until I think I find one that stands out. And this will give you 120 different color options due to the colors it has. So you can really play around. If you have your brand colors saved, you can play around with those. Let's say you want it, maybe more of a color pop version. I actually kind of really like this, although it does give me McDonald's vibes. So maybe that is something that I would consider again. It's not my aesthetic traditionally to go McDonald's, but I also might wanna choose something else because I feel like the phone, because it just has this red version could get lost. But again, instead of me having to figure out all these color combinations, Adobe Express is doing that kinda lift for me through the color sphere here. So I could also use my own brand colors, and sometimes, like this, I actually don't think is bad at all. Of course, they are my brand colors, so I am a little bit biased. So maybe for, social, I could like do this, although it does seem a little awkward to me. Could cut it off just a little bit. But again, it gives you so much grow on McDonald's. Again, not what we were going for, but again, instead of me having to think, I know that these are the colors, and I can just cycle through until I find a look I like. And because I designed, some of the assets here, some of this in full transparency comes from a template, I get to play around with it even more. And so even if you are struggling in the design process, one of the things you can do is there's so many different size options Adobe Express gives you. And so you can kind of really play around with what works for you. So that's what I like a lot about it. And with the multi-page feature, once you find a template. In fact, I have a video coming up. I'll just kind of quickly come and design with you all live. But it's one of those things where if you know what your next video is going to be, you really can design different versions. And like this was a great example of a thumbnail I wanted to design where I knew I wanted to use some of the Adobe Express, background imagery. And if we look here and I get rid of this layer, that's all that is. It's just the Adobe Express, like their own actual stuff. So it's just designing around that. I added the Adobe Express logo. It was funny because I know that this isn't a logo, but on a smaller screen, people are like, how did you get an Adobe Express shirt? I didn't. It is not a real shirt. I wish it was, but no, it is not. So again, it's just having fun. And Christina was talking about flipping an image. This image is actually flipped. And one of the adverse sides of that, which I didn't think about, is because this was originally on my right hand when I flipped it, I had a couple of people ask me, "Are you married?" Because it accidentally became a different hand when you flip. So fun facts for you. Original, which I guess, that is my right, but it looks, there. When you flip it, it then no longer is the same. So some people reached out and were like, "Whoa, did you get married?" So that was one of those fun, uh, unexpected consequences. But when we go back to, creating these different versions, right? There are so many different ways that you can create here and just saving these different versions so that I can share them out, right? So one of the things you can do is now that I have these multiple pages, again, I'll click down here to view all of them. I want to share this out. So I'm just going to download this page specifically. And if I want to go ahead and make this onto the calendar, let's say I want people to take a look at it, on Instagram. So I'll go ahead and click. Maybe I might do, since this is coming out on the 20th, I might do the 21st. I'll go ahead and add media. Now, one thing to note is because there are to publish multi-page in a post, first down assets. This is something they're working on, but for right now, that's kind of that in between. I can now drag and put in my file, but I don't remember exactly where I saved it to. There's nothing bad here. So I didn't remember where I saved it to. Go ahead and put the live stream. Grow on YouTube, the non-McDonald's version. And then I'll click add post. And then, this post requires mobile app publishing to Instagram. So because this is an interesting ratio, it's letting me know that it can't go directly to it. So that's one of those things that I wanted to make sure we showed off because if I wanted to post to Instagram, I would need to correct this. But if I wanted to create on stories, that's where with the power, hopefully I don't mess this up. He says as he's tested this once or twice, but that's where the power of Adobe Express and hopefully Streamyard doesn't let me down here. We are going to go to a different viewpoint. He says very hopefully. Should work. Tested it off air, but you never know. So this is Adobe Express as such. Now, for the calendar view, that's one of the ways you can schedule. There's different options. But you can also do this on your mobile device. Now, I have tested this in the past and it worked. So it should work again, right? That's always that fun. You hope it works because it worked once for you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and this is more of a StreamYard thing. And then we're going to go to. All right. Well, didn't work as I wanted it to, but don't worry. In the meantime, while that is going on, I wanted to know, and I wanted to also give a chance to try out the brand new Q&A feature. And if you were watching, I just want to say thank you and let me know what you have thought about Adobe Express, how you can utilize it. We still have more to go. What are your questions around YouTube thumbnails? And we're going to try this using YouTube's Q&A feature. So let's see. It's going to let me go to live chat and the questions. So curious how this will work. Curious to see how it functions. So I've posted the Q&A. I believe I'm going to unpin it. So gonna unpin the other one, but we should be able to have all of this work. In the meantime, as I am doing the setup process, if you have any questions when it comes to YouTube thumbnails, let me know in those comments. I'm very curious to what you have to say. And if you're watching now, I wanted to show off how you can post to Instagram, but sometimes it doesn't always work the way it's intended. So I wanted to share the recent video we did, which is this one. And I wanted to actually share out this stream, but it didn't seem to work the way I wanted it to. So if I want, there's a couple of ways. Let's say if I want to share directly from Adobe Express. So I could just duplicate this entire project and then from there change the name. So this is if I want to, not leave Adobe Express, the workflow. I can just basically go Adobe Express 5 features. I can call this Instagram. Or maybe I add it to the beginning if I want to be able to see it really from a glance. So I might go IG 5 Adobe Express features, duplicate this project. And what Adobe Express is going to do is just go ahead and recreate it. And the beauty of this is I can now show you how to schedule within it. And it's going to let me show off resize. It's going to let me show off a lot of different features here. So if we go to resize, let's say that I want to share this. I can make this maybe a standard square 1 by 1. I could make it more Instagram friendly. I can make it all these different ones. But again, we're going for that Instagram. Here you can see a little bit of the design is getting lost, but with my original idea intact, I kind of know what I want to do. So there's some ways that I can play around with this to really keep that initial ideal, right? So the beauty of Adobe Express is that it is very adjustable on the fly, even when it's not going exactly the way you envisioned. But hey, that is life. And so originally, this layer here, I actually used a different kind of cropping. So you can change the shape any way you want using the crop tool. You can actually even get rid of it. You can make the ratio fit for where you're trying to post. In this case, I want it to be a square. So now I can design a little bit easier within the new parameters. And I can even, because I've blown this up, the idea is not getting lost, but you're just going to have to pivot your design a little bit. And again, compared to doing this manually, this is a lot easier. And again, I have a similar crop on this. So if I want, I can make it a square too, just to keep it easy on myself. And then, from here, I can just also rotate. I would recommend it to a friend, but we're not right now. Thank you. Obviously, I'd recommend it to friends. I'm going live about it. So here is that original design. Again, trying to make this just more Instagram friendly. Can really make this a little bit larger so that I keep that ideal, and then make myself a little bit larger, keep the Adobe Express a little bit higher. Somehow that scaled pretty well. And this is just how I can make this more, Instagram friendly without really having to do more. And again, if you want to make it a little bit bigger, there are ways you can do that to keep it within the size parameter you have. Although I think for, Instagram, this is going to be pretty readable, pretty okay. So again, from here, what I could do is click on just a bunch of ways here to get to the schedule. I could download it again, or you'll notice that this is now no longer grayed out. I can actually schedule it by clicking on this little calendar, and it's going to bring this project. It's going to load the media in. So similar to what we did earlier, again, we're using resizing. And so I know that this is focusing on beginner Adobe Express features. I could add an Instagram caption. If I select Instagram, I won't have that, thing. I can also choose to publish via the mobile app. It's going to tell you the reason you might want to do that. For me, I'm okay with, just captioning here. I might just say, do you need help with Adobe Express? Maybe I'm like, do you need help getting started on YouTube? Adobe Express makes creating graphics easy. To learn more, check out link in bio. And of course, if I'm going to post this, I'm going to need to make sure my link in bio is actually up to date. And you can do this using a bunch of different softwares, but then I can do Adobe Express. I can do YouTube, grow on YouTube. And again, you can see the different hashtags you get limited to here. You can actually, add a first comment. But for me, I think that what I will do is maybe schedule this for December 7th. Go ahead. And if I ever want to maybe make this a draft instead, I can do that. So what this will do is, and if I'm still not sure that that's what I want to post, I can still see it as a draft. And a good thing about the draft option is, like, let's say something happens, because unfortunately the world is an unpredictable place. You never really know what could happen at any moment. Maybe your live stream, which you had planned in practice, all of a sudden you lose complete connection and you're kind of on the fly hoping that, you recover. Not that that would ever happen to anyone ever. But it is a interesting kind of way to do it, and it gives you a chance to, with the Adobe Express scheduling, kind of get a, not a do-over, I don't think that's the correct term, but it gives you a chance to not lose the work you've already put in, and you can still save it as just a draft. So again, using that multi-page, using that. Now, where the growth strategy comes in is thinking about events that are coming up, and that is where you can use Adobe Express, maybe with some content you have. For example, I know that every year people ask me, what do you recommend for like beginner gear, right? So that's where I can think I have videos on this. And if you are just starting creating videos, think of events that are in your niche, right? Like, for example, Christina, like if she's talking about, different kind of homes, if there are certain times of the years where home sales or home buying is at its peak, she could create different social assets using templates, creating things she's already utilized to really focus on that kind of niche. And again, that is some of the beauty of using Adobe Express, and that's something we could do together. So I've made sure to post in the Q&A section on the YouTube chat. If you're not sure, I believe you can just click on the top there and switch over to Q&A. Again, testing this out for myself. I wanted to know if you had any questions about YouTube thumbnails. We actually had a couple from my Discord specifically. So if you ever have a question and I'm not live or you're looking there, I've had it on the screen now. Join the Discord server. And this one comes from Bill Staffy. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. If you've watched long enough, you'll know pronunciation of names is always a challenge. But the question was, is how often should you change the thumbnail after publishing? Within the first few hours or days? And this is a very nuanced question. And so again, when it comes to changing a YouTube thumbnail, one thing I always say is, one, with YouTube, again, this question on screen, with YouTube giving us more data than ever to see the content, I always say you can look at how your thumbnail is performing hour by hour at a certain point. I would say a lot of times, some mistakes I see people make is that they don't spend enough time on the thumbnail. And so they create a thumbnail really quick and it's not performing. And then when they realize it's not performing, they go out and change it, and they make another thumbnail immediately with bad results. The first thing I would say is, once you make a video, you have the title, you have the description, you have everything, you have the idea. Start working on the thumbnail as soon as possible and spend the time it deserves. Because SEO and topic and title are what's going to help you earn impressions and gain interest in that video. But it's going to be a combination of title and thumbnail that get people to click and watch the content. So, how often should you change a thumbnail after publishing? If you spent an honest attempt and you're not, and I've been guilty of just throwing a thumbnail up together really quick because I wanted to do something, but spend the time it needs. If you genuinely have given it your best effort, and your video is earning impressions from different traffic sources, such as here. In fact, let me show you this. I actually have a great example of the video. As much as I like the thumbnail and I've gotten a lot of kind words about it, it's just not performing, and that's me being objective about it. So let me go ahead and we will break this down in real time. Actually, let me go full screen because I want to save just a little bit of showing behind the scenes. And again, this was strong performing out of the gate, but as we got further and further, it wasn't doing as well. And that's just me looking more objectively at it, right? So since published, it's getting impressions. The problem is though, the click-through rate is pretty poor. We were peaking at 5.2% within those first 3 days, and I'm like, "Okay, it's growing." At first, we were at 3.7, which is pretty standard, went down, went up again, and I was like, "Okay, for my channel, 5.2%, that's not terrible." Again, an average click-through rate is anywhere between 2 to 10%, so you wanna make sure you're keeping that in mind when it comes to this. So, as the time went on, and this goes back to the question when you should change it, eventually, it was gaining impressions, but it was not getting any clicks. And it would get a few depending who watched, but it was pretty low. So, what happens is over time, as I wasn't changing this thumbnail to answer this question, I'm gaining less and less impressions because the way YouTube is looking at it is, we've been sending people this video, but they're not reacting to it. So that signals to me that is when it is time to change the thumbnail. And if you notice a dip for a couple of days or even hours because you had that real time and it's not as high as it was, that's when you should change the thumbnail. Because the adverse to that is, let's say, I bring this right back on screen. Let's say I changed it, you know, let's say it kept rising after this dip. Let's say after, I see it's at 1.8 and I panic. I'll never know it will get to 5.2% to the right audience, and it could keep going higher. But when I saw it go back down here, we started strong here, at least for my channel. Again, it went higher. I'm like, all right, good, good. Then it starts dipping. This right here, between these 2 points, is when I should have changed this thumbnail to try again. So you really need to look at your own content. You really need to be objective. So that's what is super important. I see that Aaron's House of Lego says, "Wait, I need to change my thumbnails often." No, you should change your thumbnails if they are not performing when you are earning impressions. So again, looking here, started out of the gate pretty okay for my channel, pretty average. Got higher when I checked on day 3, we're at 5.2%. That's pretty good, especially with the impressions it had at that time for my channel size. But when I should have changed it is when I noticed it started dropping and not recovering higher. Here is when I should have changed it. And don't worry, if you didn't change it in time, you still have time because, like, let's look at here, last 7 days, right? It's still getting impressions, which means that YouTube is still trying, and the click-through rate is 1.6. Looking this granular after since it was published, this shows me that YouTube is trying, but this thumbnail is not converting, no matter how much I like the design. And that's something that we could work on here together. And that's the beauty of understanding YouTube thumbnails. And again, if you have any questions, right now I have in the YouTube channel here where you can ask questions. Although I'm not sure if you guys get to see the Q&A. So it's brand new, at least came out a couple of weeks ago. So if you guys can see the Q&A feature, please let me know. But I'm curious. But that's where I can then go into Adobe Express. Again, going back to the initial question, which was how often should you change a YouTube thumbnail after publishing? Within the first few hours or days. If it is performing at your channel average or above, I would say you don't need to change it right away. But if it's below average out of the gate, or it's gaining impressions, but the clicks are not coming, that is when you should consider changing it. Because if you're getting a lot of impressions, but not a lot of click-throughs and views, that's when I'd consider doing it. And I usually say give it a couple of days, or if you know your YouTube analytics well enough, you could do it within hours. But if you're just starting, give it time. Again, one of the things I see people saying is, oh, if only I had a better YouTube thumbnail, that's why my video is not going viral. And the reality is the video needs a lot more than just a thumbnail. So it goes on to, how well did you research your video? How good of a fit was this video for your target audience? For example, on this YouTube channel, I've been able to grow it primarily for 3 different things: filmmaking tips, Adobe Express, which took a bit, but it happened, and YouTube in general. Now, all three of these can be tied into general YouTube, but it's up to me as the creator to understand what my audience wanted. Even this live stream is me showing off Adobe Express, which is something I'm passionate about and I think more creators should use. But I'm very aware the angle I used was how to grow on YouTube with multi-page and how you can use social media, which is again where the thumbnail comes in, to tie all of these together. And the thing is, when we go back to the original lesson here, one thing I could also do for this video is look deeper, right? How many views in its last 7 days are coming from Twitter, which is me sharing it out? I could also try sharing this more. But the problem is, when I look at the YouTube traffic sources, a lot of it's coming from people checking out my channel page. If I go more granularly, especially in these last bit of time, when it comes to YouTube search, we're at a 2.6, which for my channel is super low. Channel pages is 1.9, browse is 1.3. And again, these are the impressions that come through. Now, the one person who happened to watch through search did watch a good majority of this video. But if I'm being objective about my own content, I could have done a lot better here. And the beauty of YouTube and the beauty of this is that I have time. Good to see you there, Noti, who says awesome and asks how everyone is doing. But the beauty is I do have that time. So it's one thing to identify your thumbnails not performing, it's another to go back and create something different. And it could also just be not just even my thumbnail, right? If I'm looking at what I titled this video, I was focusing on that this is an Adobe Express tutorial, which it is, 5 beginner features to get you started. Maybe focusing on beginner in the title is, causing people to go away. That could be something I consider. I also could consider that maybe I'm not really hitting what people are trying to do. Is a lot of people want to get started quickly. So maybe instead of 5 beginner features, maybe it's 5 features to get you started right now or immediately. Again, more urgency in the title. And again, it was not that I don't like this design. It's that the design is not performing the way I want my audience to react. And this is that growth mindset, right? Because I've promoted it, I've scheduled it, I've done a lot for this unique video. But the reality is, and this is where you take away the ego, you take away everything else. As proud as I am of that thumbnail, it is not performing to the audience I need it to. So it is up to me as the creator to understand YouTube tried. It is up to me to try again. And hey, we don't have to try again alone. And we can go in Adobe Express. We can go back to the drawing board, right? We made a copy of this. Where I still like this. Maybe this fits better for Instagram. Maybe it fits better for LinkedIn, right? So we can go back to our projects. I can go back to the Adobe Express 5 features here. Maybe I make a duplicate, as we showed, duplicate this page. And maybe, for LinkedIn, this does great. And I resize this to be a LinkedIn blog post and I just change a little bit, change it just a little bit. But other than that, I mean, it was pretty much Adobe kind of covered that for me. So maybe this works better for a LinkedIn Q&A where this kind of design language can do better, or maybe even a website or blog, right? And the beauty of the resize is like, if you don't have the specific dimensions you need, you can always just enter them in yourself. And you can do this on the app. The cool thing about Adobe Express, and I was going to try to show an over top-down view, but it's having a little bit of an issue, is that you can use, you don't have to get rid of the old design. You can try it other places because sometimes I will post stuff to my Medium and this image is people will comment the thumbnail is what caused me to click. And it's not the same thing I put on my YouTube thumbnail. So again, going back to the drawing board, thinking critically here, I want to go to the first page and I want to keep some of this design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this page again. This shows how you can use duplicate pages. I like the idea of, me holding the 5 because it's 5 features, but the sad thing might be is that people aren't necessarily getting that from my imagery, right? So then if I go down to, my Maybe I go to my Photoshop files, I take a look at me without a background. Maybe I use this version because I'm replacing this. Maybe I try instead of me holding up 5, which could be a version, again, I can A/B test this. That is a very huge version of me, a little bit too big. You know, sometimes you try different things, and again, because I'm duplicating this and I'm testing it on the fly, I don't know. Maybe this will get people to click, and, like, this fun little gag I had, I can still kinda keep the idea going. I actually might wanna enhance the contrast just a little bit, give myself a little bit more definition here. So, you make yourself a little more saturated, add a little more highlight, add a little more shadow if I want, give myself a little bit of warmth, although at that point, I'm too warm. So, maybe I find a little bit more and again, if I want, I can sharpen this, too sharp, give a little bit more detail, but again, it's finding that balance of things that you wanna do, and so, I put myself over here a little bit more. I'm designing on the fly, so trust me, I'm still going maybe I instead of beginner Adobe Express features, I say get if I can spell get started now. And then I can add a lot more emphasis like that. And you'll notice that as I change this, so will the different, you know, emphasis here. And that's something you can do by clicking here. You can make it magic. You can maybe, if you wanted, you can curve it. There's different ways you could have it, different fonts, different ways that you can have it. I like magic because it helps, make it a little more easier. But in the design process, if you're not familiar with this, maybe I can say get started now. And another thing we can do is I can duplicate a layer here. And I can do that by clicking here. I take the logo, which is a little funny because I actually had to first, get rid of the cutout, and now I want to clear the cutout to bring it back. But yeah, that was another use of the background removal. And again, I'm designing with you. I'm not perfect, and I think that that is something that is very important when it comes to designing thumbnails. Again, thinking about resizing is that while I like this design, it wasn't working. And so maybe on the now, maybe I go and I look at red text and then I just kind of keep the now fully capitalized and I can again duplicate this text and we can go back to here. We have get started. We can click on this, make it white. White is my voice cracks. But again, hopefully this is making sense to everyone who's watching. And it gives me an opportunity where I can have this like get started and I can layer it a little bit. And I can even put it here to make it sized correctly to this. Might even keep that to give it like a outline. And then it's like get started now. But there's not really anything that's drawing attention to the Adobe Express. And that again is on me. I can maybe do design assets. I can go into like lines. I can look at what is here. Maybe I can do like, you can take a look at what is there. You can take a look at different design choices for it. Again, it's all finding stuff that you think would fit your design language, your aspect. And for me, maybe another thing I can do is if I really am stuck, is sometimes it'll give you different choices, not only in color, but design, and it'll give you variations. So it'll give you different choices that you can use for different things. And that can be very helpful, especially if you're kind of in a stuck position or you don't really understand what you want, but you have an idea, but you're not really sure how to execute. And that happens more than often for a lot of people, myself included. So now we have the Adobe Express logo. We have this. It might help to make this a little darker so that this stands out even more. The original design isn't lost. I could also maybe change this color to another one of my brand colors. Maybe I make it this green instead. Maybe I make it this red. Let me know, what do you like? Do you prefer the green or do you prefer the red? Curious to what people will say. And then I wanna make this stand out, so I'm gonna go maybe design assets here. And again, we're going over this together because you never really know what might work for you until you give it a shot, right? So if I want, I could maybe make this look a little more, opulent by adding a fancy border like this. Um, I don't think I would do that personally, but if you wanted to give it a little, little specific look, you can just drag this here. You can change quite a lot actually. So truly it is up to you on what you want to do. If you want to make this contrast, if you want to just make it one way, you have so much control. If you wanted to make this, for example, maybe a white background border, you can easily do that. But really, what I'm trying to do is draw attention to the Adobe Express. And the get started now, maybe the red doesn't work super well because it might be too similar and the red on red will not go well. So if I go for this green, it might add some, contrast that is sorely lacking here. And again, it's understanding what you have. And these duotones, maybe I put in my brand color blue and then maybe I don't. And again, I undo and it's seeing what I like and what I don't. Maybe I add the blue over here, but I just lower it or raise it a bit, help it stand out. Again, you're going to play around with it quite a lot. And now this is a different image, different idea, but maybe this works. Maybe I go back to the original, which if I want to quickly and I don't want to have to re-export or re-bring them in, I can go ahead and just take this. I can click duplicate. And then what I can do is I have this file. If I remember correctly. There might be a way I can do this easier. Don't want to replace it. But because I already have it over here, I should be able to bring him this version of myself over to the next one, which is weird because it's him, but hopefully you understand. But this is a different approach to the same issue. And now because of, just changing this, some of the enhancements, some of the warmth causes me to blend in with the green, and you have to think in different ways. So this is just different ways that you can look objectively at what you're doing, what you have designed, what you have created, and really kind of determine what works for you in terms of how you share, how you do things. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you everyone who is watching, everyone who is using, Multipage, using Adobe Express. We will have comments all around down below. I want to thank everyone who was live. I saw, I saw so many different channels, Homekeeping channel. I saw Christina Smallhorn. I saw Sleepy Carl. I saw Ike. I saw Homekeeping, channel. So really do appreciate everyone who joined me here today. Hopefully you learned a lot about Adobe Express. Let me know what your favorite Adobe Express feature is in those comments down below. Hopefully you guys will give that free trial link a shot. And of course, if you are not already, please consider joining that Discord server. That's where one of those questions was on how often should you change a YouTube thumbnail. We're answering them there and in lives like this. My next live will be in about 2 weeks, so it'll be in the first week of December. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed, and if I can, you can too. Take care.